I already attempted to record this video once and it did not work, so... Recently, after watching Transformers 7, Rise of the Beast, the best movie of all time, I went back and watched all 6 of the previous films, God help me, and now I'm going to do something that might be considered clinically insane, as if what I just did doesn't also constitute that. I'm going to be ranking 142 characters from across all 7 films. I will link this tier list maker in the description that I made, but it will not be in this nice, smooth order I did because tier list maker is a son of a bitch, and reordered it, so I had to reorder this all manually, and you can see, there are exactly 7 tiers, funnily enough. One of which is just for one character, and one of which I also made during the last recording for one character. So we have actually good, which refers to characters who I think are actually good. Entertaining, which are characters who are not really good, but they're fun to watch. Almost good, so far, was just one character. Those are characters who I think have things going for them. They're not exactly entertaining, but there's definitely an element to them that gives them a bit more depth. Exist by definition. This is the tier for characters who have a role in the film, but that's all they are. They are a role to play in the film. Guru Boom Bang Clang refers to characters who exist solely for the sake of showing up and then dying unceremoniously. Dispensor is for Dispensor because I didn't know where to rank him. And then bad. So we're going to get started. This is all in film order, beginning with the 2007 original Transformers characters. We're going in the order of Autobots, Decepticons, humans, and of course, with films with other factions, they'll also be involved, and Dispensor's at the very end because he deserves it best for last. Now, we start with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, both of which I have to place in exists by definition. Now, I did separate the original and Bumblebee forward characters into different things, so Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, RC, Wheeljack, and Mirage all have multiple entries on this tier list for those different incarnations. This is just focusing on the original 5 films, in which case I think Optimus has elements going for him. There is an interesting concept for his character of this hero who, let's just say, definitely has gotten a bit tired with the war and is just killing everything in his way gotta die. And while I think that's interesting, I don't necessarily think they went as well with it as they could have. Now, in the first 3 films, he's fine. He did get a bit worse than Last Night for me, because, he has no role in that film, to be honest. He flies a Cybertron, and he introduces us to Quintessa, but beyond that, he shows up at the end to just sort of be bad for, a few seconds and kill one guy, which easily could have just been done by Megatron. The only difference is that Megatron would have killed Bumblebee while Optimus didn't, but they could have easily just written Bumblebee escaping. Because Megatron ends up winning the encounter anyway, or even Megatron just throws Bumblebee aside because he couldn't be bothered killing him and then flies off with the staff the way he does. Optimus adds nothing to the film, really, in Last Night. He's barely in it. All the Autobots are barely in it. Bumblebee, meanwhile, I put a bit below Optimus because Optimus has something going on. Bumblebee is not really much of a character in those films. He's got really nothing going on except a few cute scenes. Definitely wish these two were done better. Ironhide, though, and Ratchet and Jazz, in this order, all going to go in entertaining. Now, in Ironhide and Jazz's case, I think it's very clear why. Ironhide is a beloved character for a reason. He's got a lot of personality. He's got a lot of attitude. They kind of reuse his personality for a lot of characters in the future, but for just the first film, Ironhide stands out as being the rough and tumble asshole. There's a bit of nuance to him. He is kind of caring for others. He does look out for everyone. Like a big brother sort of guy, and he's really proud of his cannons. He loves Earth culture. Same with Jazz. He's just got he's very fun in the very few scenes we get of him. Ratchet's up there because, interestingly enough, he is a character that they actually kept in mind his role in the team as the medic throughout the films. You see him doing medical stuff, talking about the stuff with Autobots and how they work and all that. Not often, and that makes it sound like he actually explains things, but no. He has a role as medic, and they actually stuck to it for a bit, and I think that's kind of unique in his case. I quite like Ratchet just as a rather entertaining character whenever he shows up, and he has a few lines of just saying, yeah, these humans are fucking stupid. On the opposite end of things, we got 2 characters straight up going bad, Megatron and Starscream. Megatron in these films In the first film, perfectly fine. They build up to his reveal of like him coming out and being freed. Everyone's scared of him. He's really intimidating, really imposing. Then comes Revenge of the Fallen. He does not beat Optimus in direct fight. Instead, he sneaks up on the guy and has to shank him from behind like a loser. Megatron sucks in Revenge of the Fallen. I mean, like, Optimus comes back at the end and kills him. Or doesn't kill him, but like beats him up really easily. Dark of the Moon, he spends the whole film, as they say in the film, as Sentinel Prime's bitch. He only takes that Sentinel from behind, and then Optimus kills him with one arm. Which is really embarrassing. That's also the design for the render I've put in here. I don't know why some renders came out without backgrounds and some did. They're all supposed to be PNGs, unless they're just saved wrong when I saved it on my computer. That's also possible. Age of Extinction, Galvatron is Megatron. He does nothing. He does nothing in the film. He shows up briefly. All he does is give Lockdown the chance to attack. Then at the very end, he has 3 scenes of, "Arise, my brothers," and then, "Oh my god, everything's going to shit," and then, "Bye." And then last night, he's also there. He has that like whole scene in the desert, which offers nothing. Starscream, again, he has a role like Megatron, so he doesn't go in Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. But he is kind of shit. He is a character whose traits are all told to us after the fact. His treachery and all that. That's something that Megatron says, but he never betrays Megatron in these films. Like, he's sycophantic, absolutely, that is true. But Starscream, aside from just looking like shit, I really don't like his design all that much. Doesn't do much. Like, he's barely there, and he's just disappointingly bad. On the other hand, Barricade, I can put in exists by definition. He does play a role of forcing Bumblebee to show himself to Sam in the first film, and like give away who he is, that he's there. That's an important role to play, and he is interesting in that he shows up in 3 films, all the odd number ones until Rise of the Beast, where he will show up, he will do something, and then he won't die and won't show up in the next movie at all with no explanation. That's Barricade's lot in life, and it's really amusing. I really like his design. Both of them I actually think are quite good designs, though I'm more partial to the original one. And like Blackout, he's one of the few characters who redefined what the character was in the wider Transformer sphere from the movies onward, which is cool. I like Barricade enough. I can't say he's entertaining. He's not almost good. He's got no character traits, but he's just sort of there. I put him below Bumblebee because he definitely doesn't do a whole lot, but he has a role, and he's not bad at all, by any means. Next up, we have Frenzy. Frenzy is entertaining. I find Frenzy to be quite fun in his one film appearance. I think with Frenzy, he really plays into what I like with the first film, where the Decepticons have this really subtle approach to them for the most part. Like, they're going underhanded, they're sneaking around, they're doing all this, like, nasty stuff in the background, and, like the Decepticons are actually being, not necessarily deceptive, but sneaky. And Frenzy plays a big part of that, and he has a few really good scenes. With a lot of the Decepticons, they're only scary because of their size. Frenzy's actually kind of manic and insane, and while that character trait would be used for a lot of Decepticons moving forward, in the first film, it's unique to Frenzy. The rest of the Decepticons are brutish, but not absolutely off-the-wall crazy the way Frenzy is, and that makes Frenzy a very unique and fun to watch. Blackout, I'm going to put in exist by definition, just below Barricade, because his role isn't huge, but he does introduce us to the Transformers in the films, and you couldn't replace him with anyone else, because the only other character who could have done what he did would be Starscream, but the reveal would not be nearly as good with Starscream, because jets are a lot faster, don't have the slower pacing of a helicopter to get across that, the pacing of that scene. That's a great scene with Blackout. I think it's excellent. And Blackout is just great. He is integral to the story, if not immediately obviously. I can't put him much higher because he's not got much of a personality, but he is cool as just a big brutish villain. Scorponok is the first character we're going to put in Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. He exists solely to die. In the first film, his role is primarily just to... I mean, he doesn't really have a role. It's just to be an action scene instead of a scene of Lennox just walking in and telling, not Morshower, Kelly, that he's alive. That's the role that Scorponok plays in that movie, is just to give us an action scene there instead of just Lennox walking in. Because the whole high heat saber round being necessary does not come back at any point in the movie. With Scorponok, he is just there to die. Like, that's like in the second film at least, he just shows up to die. In the first one, he just shows up and then vanishes. To be an action sequence, that's all he is. And the same goes for Brawl and Bone Crusher, but I will put Brawl up and then Bone Crusher just behind Brawl. because I really like their designs. Bone Crusher exists just to get punched in the face by Optimus and then get decapitated. At least he has a minor role of delaying Optimus, which actually matters in the first film, because Optimus is the one guy that can fight Megatron, as opposed to every other film where Megatron's kind of a joke. And Brawl doesn't have that role, but the thing is, at least Brawl in his one scene feels kind of unstoppable, because he keeps getting back up from just endless ways of punishment. But in that regard, Brawl is decent, right? He's decent in that role as just a monster. Now we get to Sam Witwicky. Controversial. I do not dislike Sam that much. I definitely didn't like him for a long time. I still don't really like him that much, but I don't dislike him that much either. He's pretty middling for me. I think one of the things with me is that Shia LaBeouf really gets across the idea of him just being a guy. Like, he's just a guy who was brought into this horrific context of this galactic war. And when he's, like, the big thing in Hollywood, when actors scream, there's always this energy of trying to look badass while doing it, or, like, trying to just, like, look cool. Even when they're in anguish or they're freaking out, they still try to come off like they're like this cool, handsome guy. Shia doesn't do that. When Shia screams, he really comes across like a normal guy just freaking the fuck out. And I really like that. He definitely gets better not as the films go on. I don't really like him much in Revenge of the Fallen, but he gets better in Dark of the Moon, where he, like, has a little bit of character development. I can't put him in actually good, because I don't think his development is very soft, and he's not really that fun to watch a lot of the time. But I don't dislike Shia. I do think that overall as a character, he's probably better than Optimus, because he has something going on beyond being an action set piece. On the other hand, I said in my first recording, the fact that Tier List Maker put Michaela as just her torso and not her face really fits her role as just eye candy for Michael Bay to shoot. Michaela is cool as an action girl, but aside from that, she doesn't do anything for a lot of the films. She's just there to be there for Sam, to give him a reason to do things. At least she has a role, though. Like, she's not bad as a character. She's just not got a great purpose. Oh. Burping. I believe his name's Kelly. He goes in entertaining. The thing with him is that he's got an action hero vibe, but he doesn't come across like one of those hard-ass action heroes. He comes across like a member of a board who, when push comes to shove, can shove back, right? Like, he can get shit done when he needs to, but he's more so behind the scenes. And he's just really cool to watch. He's like a mature figure who's not overly militaristic, but still, like, serious and respectable, and with that high status. It's cool. I actually quite like him. I don't think he's as good as the Transformers I put above him, because he's not as fun to watch, but he definitely deserved to be in more films. Or I guess maybe not, because he probably would have sucked at them. Maggie Madison, I'm putting her above Sam in Exist by Definition. Maggie is a much more likable character, and I think the big thing for me is that she plays into the storyline I'm interested in, with the mystery, like, what are the Decepticons up to, what are they really looking for? Which, you know, you believe is just the Allspark, but then it's like, oh, they're actually looking for Megatron as well. Sector 7 has Megatron. And she plays into all that code breaking and stuff, which is not really cooked in the film, but is interesting. It's intriguing. And then Glenn, I'm going to put lower, but he's part of that too. I like Glenn well enough. I just realized the way I put him makes it look like he's freaking out at Michaela. I'm just going to put him below Michaela, because Michaela appears in more films and has more to do. Now he's freaking out at Barricade. Glenn is perfectly fine, perfectly likable at certain points. Actually, I'm going to have to put him below these two. He has a character unlike them, but Glenn is a bit more annoying at points. But I don't dislike him. Judy Witwicky, I'm putting her above Megatron, but I have to put her in bad, because she's just got a lot of lines that just upset me. Just a lot of lines that aren't funny. It's Michael Bay trying to be funny, but it's not working. He was not cooking with Judy. She's not a great character, but you know what? At the very least, she's not like insufferable for 5 movies, just 3 movies. I do like her more in Dark of the Moon. She starts to feel more like an actual loving mother who's just very eccentric as the films go on. Ron Witwicky, Ron or Rob, whatever. Sam's father will definitely go into Exist by Definition. I like him a lot more. Though he's a bit more of an asshole. He just feels a bit more genuine to me. Then we get to Sergeant Lennox and Epps. I'm putting them both in Exist by Definition. I'm putting Epps higher. Now, they're both pretty cool characters. They kind of play the same role, though. the main thing for me is that Lennox's beyond the military character is very undercooked. It's just the first part of the first film, and then in Last Night they had so much potential with this guy who is a friend with the Autobots, cares about the Autobots, but is on the side of the bad guys, maybe trying to reel them in so they don't go too far, and they didn't do anything with it. With Ebbs's alternate character elements, his storyline in Dark of the Moon, it's definitely a lot more interesting to me. It's done better, in my opinion. I would almost put Ebbs in almost good, but they didn't really build much off him. He is still kind of just generic. I hope you guys can't hear the people in the background screaming from across the street. Then we got Seymour Simmons. He goes right in the top. Now, with Simmons, I can understand if you don't want him there, but what I like about him is that in those first 3 films, he's like the character who seems to have the closest thing to an arc across them. Like, in the first film, he's straight up antagonistic, he's an asshole, he's full of himself. In the second film, he comes across more like a fanboy, but he is still, like, in the know. Like, he is a goofy character, but he's a goofy character who knows what he's doing. And John Turturro puts everything in the role as a character. Puts everything he has in the character, and it's really entertaining to watch. But also, he goes from that antagonist into what could charitably be called an arc where he becomes a much better person by the end. And he's like friends with Sam, he's on good terms with all of them, he's genuinely trying to help. And then in Last Night, he's important to the story, technically. He leads them to Stonehenge, but he doesn't do much in Last Night. And then Dispensor. I love Dispensor, but he's not a character. Can I get rid of that? So Dispensor has his own tier, because I don't really know where to tier him. Yeah, so that's your first movie tier list. I think the best character is Simmons. In the first film on its own, it would be Ironhide, but with the whole arc, with the whole story in mind, the trilogy, it would be Simmons. And then Ironhide's still up there. Yeah, that's it for the first film. Second film begins with Sideswipe, who undoubtedly is going entertaining. Sideswipe only has a few scenes across the second and third film to do anything, and then dies in the dies off screen in the fourth one. With Sideswipe though, I find him fun to watch. Like, just the way he rollerblades around is actually quite visually dynamic to me. Maybe dynamics may be a bit of a strong word, but it looks cool, right? Like, he looks cool, and he does cool shit whenever he gets to do anything at all. But he's not a character, really. He's a prop who just happens to be fun. RC's twins, or RC sisters. RC, Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. She just exists to fight. I like how Tia Maker decided to only capture her arm here. Makes sense, because all she is shoot. The RC sisters, their only role, they show up to shoot it sideways and get nothing done because Sideswipe ends up doing the job. And then they show up again at the end of the film to be background extras, and then Alita 1 goes up and says, Sam, don't just stay here, actually go do your job. And it's like, he was already going to do that. Chromia, Alita 1, both bottom of Gurgar Boom Bang Clang as well. Gurgar Boom Bang Clang is going to come down to designs for a lot of it. As for Jolt, Jolt goes in the bottom of Exist by definition. I really like Jolt's look. I like his electro whips. He does have an important role in the film that probably would have been given to Ratchet if they didn't want to promote the Vault, the car he turns into, which is the only reason he's there. But he's not a character. He's barely a nothing in the film. He's nothing. He's whatever. What even is he supposed to be in the movie? He's not there. You don't even hear his name outside of when Ratchet says, Jolt, electrify. And it's like, who's Jolt? Mudflap and Skids, yeah, and you know, Wheelie can go down there with them. Mudflap and Skids, pretty racist characters in their, like, the stereotypes that they promote, and they are. Admittedly, they weren't written to be racist. It was more so the actors ad-libbing and characterizing them themselves the way they wanted to do it. Which, whether that makes it better or worse, is up to you. Which is why I put them above Wheelie, because Wheelie was just written to be obnoxiously annoying. And at least Mudflap and Skids don't fucking hump anyone on screen. Wheelie fucking humps, and he's annoying and aggravating in every scene. Wheelie is ugly. Is he better or worse than the G1 Wheelie? He's probably worse. Jetfire, though, I love Jetfire. I think Jetfire was done pretty cool in Revenge of the Fallen. I think Revenge of the Fallen, the highlight for me is probably just the Jetfire parts. Now, he's definitely below Ironhide, because Ironhide doesn't have as, like, fart humor, which is stupid. But with Jetfire, I just like the idea of this. He's not really a skilled fighter. He's not really good at his job. He's just an old, cranky bastard. He only kills anything because he's so fucking big. He just happens to be really large. So he can smash Scorponok and Mixmaster in, like, one hit each. And, like, the SR-71 Blackbird alt mode as well definitely helps, because I love that vehicle. But Jetfire has, like, the whole Decepticon turned good thing. That's pretty undercooked, but it's still there. It's interesting. But I find him entertaining to watch. Like, the way he talks is very scattershot. As in, like, the word scattershot, not the Transformer scattershot. And it's so manic that I can't help but smile when he's like trying to explain things, and like the conviction in his words is pretty great. That's really all there is. Like, I just like watching Jetfire. The Fallen, it's gonna ride down here. I don't think the Fallen is the worst villain in these films. There is one main villain I think is worse, but he's definitely the second worst. The Fallen, for the most part, sits on his fucking chair all movie, and then right at the end he shows up, hits an aircraft carrier, lifts some tanks, and then dies. The Fallen is barely a character, he's barely a villain, he's barely anything. I do not like the Fallen at all. Even Michael Bay doesn't like it, really. Like, the Fallen sucks. I definitely think there was more they could have done with him. And also, what is that design? He's a lanky boy. It looks cool in the Studio Series figure because he's big in hand, but in the film, looks kind of shit. Soundwave goes and exists by definition with the other Decepticons. I'm putting him below Blackout and Barricade though, because they both have standout scenes. Soundwave is cool to me in Revenge of the Fallen because he's not there just to die. He's solely there for the sake of the plot. Like, he's a Decepticon actually there to serve a story purpose, to be the communication guy and help them find out information they need through very contrived means, very contrived dialogue. But he actually has a purpose in the film beyond just dying. And even in Dark of the Moon, he has a purpose beyond when he eventually just kind of unceremoniously gets killed by Bumblebee. And I kind of like the satellite look. I actually kind of dig it. But that is all Soundwave is. And I wish he was better, but he's not. He's not. On the other hand, Ravage goes down here, and so does Reedman. I actually like Reedman's look worse than us. I'll talk about him later. Ravage has no purpose in the film. Like, I know, okay, he and Reedman do get the shard of the Allspark for Megatron. Here's the thing. With all these other characters who have a scene, only they could fulfill that scene, right? Only Scorponok could be in the desert, fight the humans, and then not win, right? The other Decepticons would have easily won. Bone Crusher and Brawl, only Bone Crusher could be on that street because he's the only one fast enough to roll around. Brawl kind of just is there, admittedly, but Blackout's also there, and they're both in the scene together. With Ravage, any random fucking Decepticon could have just broken in and gotten the shard, because there was no subtlety to how he did it. Guns blazing, missiles firing everywhere. No purpose to Ravage in the film, really. He's just, like, there because I think he looks kind of cool. Reedman's worse, though, because at least with Ravage, I do like his design to an extent. Reedman, the whole point of Reedman is that he's very flat, so if you were to look at him head on, you would not see him most likely, because he's so thin. That is ruined by the fact that he's got a big fucking red-orange glowing eyeball? Did they not think that was a bit stupid? Because it is a bit stupid. What is that meant to be? Reedman sucks. Like, he exists just to get the shot. He barely belongs here because he doesn't exist to die or to kill, really. Because he just vanishes, because of course he does. And you know what? Scalpel can go here too. There is no purpose to his existence. He does tell the Constructicons to get more parts so they can revive Megatron. But for fuck's sake, we didn't need that. Like, the Constructicons are builders. Characterize them by understanding that they need more parts to revive Megatron, or just have one of them get shot by a torpedo, so those submarines guarding Megatron don't seem completely useless. And so they, like, throw scrap metal in front of the torpedo, the only one that can be fired in time, and, like, it destroys him, misses one of the more important Constructicons, and they're able to use his parts for Megatron. Very simple ideas. You don't need a character just for that, just to show up and threaten Sam. What purpose is there to that? Why? That scene is completely irrelevant, because it ends up not mattering, and then he doesn't die. He just vanishes from the film. Alice, you, my friend, can go right down the bottom. Not because she's bad, but because she just makes me uncomfortable. And, like, not the scenes that they intend to be uncomfortable, where she's, like, a pretender, but, like, the scenes where she's pretending to be human, and they shoot her in this really titillating way. It's just... Michael Bay does it a lot, but it feels especially grimy and greasy with her for some reason, and it makes me really unhappy. It does not pass the vibe check for me, and I don't really know why exactly. Like, I can't put it to words, but I don't like it. Grindor. Grindor goes to the bottom, and down the bottom is where you're going to find all of the reused design characters. Grindor has no reason to be in the film. I know he brings Sam and Michaela and Leo to Megatron, but they were in a car. They could have just been led in there. Like, make the Decepticons seem competent by having Starscream flying behind them, leading them towards the building without them realizing, and then Megatron breaks out the wall and brings them inside. Much more simple. Starscream has a role. You don't need to reuse a character model. Grindor exists just so that Optimus Prime can kill someone in the forest battle. That is the only reason he's there, to die. And he's just Blackout, but they made him bigger. Now, I don't hate Grindor for existing because his Studio Series figure is phenomenal. It is basically an improvement in every way from the Blackout Studio Series figure, which doesn't make me feel too bad because I have the movie masterpiece Blackout, which is one of the best figures I've ever held in my life. Grindor is just awful. He has no reason to exist. He's got no personality. He's there just to die. And you know who else is? Sideways. Now, I'm going to put Sideways up below Ravage. The thing with Sideways, while I like his design well enough, I just feel bad for the guy. He was just sitting around, minding his own business. And now, we're not including anything outside of the movies. Otherwise, yeah, Sideways absolutely deserved to die. But in the movie, you get no impression. Sideways is just there, hiding, minding his own business, and then he just fucking dies. And I just feel bad for him. What did he do wrong? Just because he's a Decepticon. Like, literally, any other Optimus would have offered a Decepticon who was peacefully doing nothing some amnesty. Do you want to join us? Do you want to change sides? And if Sideways says no and starts throwing hands, then you got the guy. But he doesn't do anything. And, like, he exists just to promote a car and look cool and get killed by Sideswipe. That's his role. That's all he is. Devastator. Yeah, he exists by definition. I'm going to put him below, actually. Devastator, don't like his design, though he actually looks cool in that render. I think, okay, his design isn't too bad in a vacuum when he's got, like, the shorter neck, but in the film, he's kind of just like a slobbering dog with a vacuum cleaner for a face. The combination sequence to Devastator is one of the coolest visual effects I've ever seen in a movie. Absolutely points for that. But his role, it is important to break the pyramid. Or is it? Because the Fallen has telekinesis. Just have him do it. Give the Fallen something to do. You didn't need Devastator to do anything as Devastator. And that's the problem. There's so many Decepticons in the scene that Devastator seems kind of irrelevant, because he doesn't do anything. He only gets into combat with Mudflap and Skids, and then he tears apart the pyramid a bit, and then he gets shot by a railgun from halfway across the fucking planet, because they have no sense of geography and don't know that there's no such thing as a body of water that close to the pyramids of Giza. At least not one big enough to hold a USS destroyer with an unrealistically big railgun. But Devastator, why? Why did they do him like this? Like, I can't put him in Gurgra Boom Bang Clan because he is somewhat relevant to the story, even if I think you could easily replace him. But I think it would have been way cooler if he was actually fighting the Autobots, like all the Autobots had to come together to take down this massive kaiju transformer, and like his main role was to buy time and be a big threat. Then he would at least be threatening and cool, as opposed to just showing up, sucking up nothing for no reason, getting his face busted by Mudflap and Skids, and then dying. Mixmaster. So with the Constructicons, I'm gonna rank. Okay, Long Haul Mixmaster and Scrapper have some shots where they show up in the movie as themselves. And I'm going to put them there because I actually quite like Longhaul's design. I like Mixmaster's a little less, and I like Scrapper's a bit less than his. They just exist to die. I put them below Sideways, because at least Sideways prominently appears to die. They appear to die in the background. I don't even know if you see Scrapper die. He just shows up to flail at Sam. They are pointless beyond combining into Devastator. Hightower, Overload, and Scrap Metal go at the bottom because they barely show up at all. I don't think you can even see Hightower and Overload's robot modes at all in the film, and Scrap Metals you can only see underwater very briefly. They go below the remade models because they don't have models. They're barely there. Skipjack is going with them, and Rampage is going a bit higher. I don't like his design at all. I actually like it less than the RC Sisters. Actually, I'm going to put him up because Rampage at least has a scene devoted to him. Skipjack doesn't. Skipjack is just there to become a leg. And Scavenger as well. At least you see Scavenger a bit better in robot mode than any of them for his one scene. Scavenger's barely in the movie. And then his recolor Demolisher, who actually has a prominent role, goes a bit higher. I'm going to put him up just because he actually shows up and has a scene devoted to him. And it's a cool scene, even though I do feel bad for him. I'm actually going to put him above Sideways and Ravage. Now, you might be wondering, doesn't he go into exist by definition because he's important because he tells the Autobots about the Fallen? Hell no! Him telling the Autobots about the Fallen ends up having absolutely no purpose in the movie. Because them knowing about the Fallen does not actually do anything for them. Because, straight up, they don't prepare for him. All they do is talk about him very briefly, and it leads to Galloway saying, "What if they're after you guys? It sounds to me like something's coming." But the inciting incident for the Autobots getting involved is Megatron kidnapping Sam. And that happens because Sam is getting visions, not because the Autobots know about the Fallen. They never bring up the Fallen. Most of them don't even see the Fallen. Optimus never brings the Fallen up again. When he sees the Fallen when he gets revived, he isn't like, "Holy shit, that's the Fallen, is it?" No. All he does is exist so that we know the Fallen exists 2 minutes before we actually see him in the film. Demolisher has no major story purpose. He's just there to die in an opening action scene. But you know what? At least he has a good deal of screen time for a Decepticon. Leo Spitz. I don't like Leo. I just don't like him, yeah. He's just annoying, aggravating, upsetting, and he has basically no role in the film. Beyond getting us to Simmons, which is important, yes, but he's just not great. Director Galloway, I'd like less. He is intentionally written to be an asshole. The only thing I like about him is the scene where he gets kicked out of the plane, because that's funny. And Lennox, his actor, whose name escapes me right now, did a great job selling the annoyance. General Morshower, he's in the film. He does have a story purpose leading Lennox and Epps, but yeah, he's really barely a character. And then there's Dickbot the Blender Guy and Erector. They're going above the reused designs, but they have basically no role. They're just there to get shot up by Bumblebee. I like Erector more, because despite his name, he is less phallic than Dickbot the Blender Guy, I just love his name, honestly. Now we move on to Dark of the Moon. For Dark of the Moon, this is where I have the almost good tier, specifically for Sentinel, because I think Sentinel isn't entertaining to me. I don't find him super entertaining, and he's not exist by definition, because there is an interesting seed with his character. And I would almost put Optimus here. Do I want to put Optimus here? No, because they didn't do anything with Optimus at all. They did some things with Sentinel. The whole nature of him, he wants to save Cybertron. He's just willing to go steps that Optimus never would. He's not evil in that sense. He's just an antagonist, and he is still a villain, but he is a villain who has the best intentions in mind for his planet. It's just at the expense of everyone else. I guess you could argue if that counts as evil or not. Okay, he was going to enslave humanity. That is pretty fucking evil. But he has the best intentions for his world. He does mean well for his race. He just He is just aggressive and violent and willing to do anything it takes. And I think that makes him the best villain across these films until Shadow and Dropkick and then Scourge. Because there is a motivation. There's an actual motivation to him. And that makes him almost an interesting character. I think they could have done more. I would have liked to see him be somewhat apologetic to Ironhide, because Ironhide didn't do anything wrong. He didn't know Ironhide well enough. He just needed to get Ironhide out of the way. If he was like, I am sorry, but I must discharge you from duty. Like, give across the idea, he is sorry, but he is willing to push his own emotions away for the sake of doing what needs to be done. Like, it's just the fact that he has a motivation that is so rare in these films. Not the motivation itself, the fact that he has a motivation that puts him above a lot of the others. Dino, you exist solely for action sequences. I'm going to put you above these guys because you have a 2-second clip devoted to you, but you barely do anything. I do like Dino's design quite a bit. This is Mirage 1.0, but he's not a character. He is an accent with a cool look, an awesome Ferrari alt mode, but because they chose Ferrari, they couldn't make a toy of him that actually turns into the right vehicle, and he doesn't do anything. He has no role in the film, except to kill Hatchet, who has no role in the film except to die to Dino, so, yeah. He's not a character. He's nothing. Q, aka Wheeljack 1.0. Really don't like Q. It comes down mostly to his face. I just hate his design so much. He has a role in the films. He has a role in that he lets Sam kill Starscream, which... So I guess he doesn't really have a role, if we're being honest, because Starscream doesn't have a role outside of destroying the Xanthium. Which he does beforehand, obviously. And then he does nothing else after except die. So Q barely has a role in the film, but he's just ugly, and I don't like him. Brains. He does exist by definition. He's above Jolt and Devastator, because he definitely is important. Actually, no, he's not. They could have easily written around him needing to be there in Age of Extinction. So he and Wheelie both have this weird thing where in Dark of the Moon, both of them show up and then have an ending. They die, right? They die. But then turns out they didn't, and they show back up in a later movie where they just randomly vanish. They randomly vanish. Wheelie does that twice. He also randomly vanishes at the end of Revenge of the Fallen. If you notice, you don't see him again after he gets space bridged to Egypt and lands. He doesn't show up again. Brains doesn't show up again after explaining the whole Megatron Galvatron thing in Age of Extinction. I like him more than Wheelie because he's less scummy, but he's still not great. And then you have the Wreckers. They exist by definition. They have probably more important a story role in Dark of the Moon than Barricade and not more than Barricade, but more than Blackout did. Actually, I'm gonna put Soundwave. No, I'm gonna put Soundwave above Blackout, but not above them. Their role... Actually, no, I'm gonna put Soundwave above them, actually, because he is one character. 3 characters who serve one purpose. That purpose being to build the Xanthium in a way that the Autobots can survive being exiled, to give the Autobots a chance in the ensuing battle, because they take the Decepticons by surprise. I like the Wreckers' designs. I like the absurd weaponry of their vehicle modes. I find them endearingly assholey. The Wreckers at least act like Wreckers I expect to. That's not English. They act the way I expect Wreckers to act. They're barely characters, but they have attitudes, and that's close enough to a character in these films. Roadbuster, Leadfoot, and Topspin, admittedly, their their attitudes are also added by their accents, you know. One's Scottish, and like Topspin has like a Puerto Rican thing going on, I think. I was told, I don't know for sure, I don't want to come off as racist by saying that. I was told he's got a Puerto Rican accent. I can't tell, because I barely paid attention to his few lines in Last Night. He has Leadfoot's head for some reason in that film. They have a role to play. They're just... And, like, they're not there just to kill things and die, because they barely do that, which is weird, because they are wreckers. Their main role in the film after that is to get Optimus out of some cables. Shockwave! I'm putting him above Dino because he has more of a role in the film. He does distract Optimus for a bit. And I do like his... I mean, I'm going to put him above Rampage as well, actually, because I actually like Shockwaves and Sideways and Ravage and Demolisher. Okay, I'm putting Shockwave at third here because I like his design. He and those characters below him have basically no role in the movie. The only issue with Shockwave's design is that the one eye looks a little bit silly on a body that fucking beefy. A body looks almost identical to Infernicus's the more I look at it, aside from the head and the arms. But Shockwave doesn't do anything in the movie. He's not a character. He's nothing. He kind of just exists to intimidate you at the start of the movie and then get punched really hard in the face by Optimus Prime and die. Good job, Shockwave. The Driller is going straight at the bottom. Well, not quite at the bottom. He's going above Reedman and Scalpel and the RC Twins. Because the Driller is just there to be an action set piece. That's all, and that's fine, but he's not a character. Laserbeak, though, I'm actually going to put all the way up just behind Jetfire. As a villain, Laserbeak is amazing. Like, he's so sinister and conniving. Like, he has so much character to him. It's not like a deep character, but the whole, like, he loves his job, he enjoys, he's loyal, but he seems like he's loyal mostly because they tell him to do things that give him that sadistic pleasure. He has the creepiest scene with the "Is your daddy home" bit, the implication that he is just regularly sneaking into people's homes by taking advantage of the naivety of their children, then killing them and their whole family to tie up loose ends. Laserbeak is a menace in Dark of the Moon, and like with Frenzy, where all the Decepticons I would only be afraid due to their size, I'd actually be afraid of Laserbeak because of his character. He was someone who would enjoy killing me, and he's so fucking smug about it too. Like, Laserbeak's great. I think he got it the best of the cassette bots. Ravage definitely got done the dirtiest. Igor. Spence or / Igor. Oh, I can't type. My keyboard's not attached. Well, I guess I'm going to put him at the bottom. Grugar Boom Bang Clang. Igor's barely in the film, but he is just there. The Dreads. They exist solely to die. They are action set pieces characters. Well, they're not characters. I put them above the Driller because I like their designs more in the order of the Predator Crankcase, the Not Quite Predator Crowbar, and the Doggy Hatchet. They just exist. Hatchet exists so Dino can kill him. Crowbar and Crankcase exist so Ironhide and Sideswipe can kill them. That's it. That's all they are. Carly Spencer. She's bad. And the reason she's bad is simply I just think her acting is awful. I don't think that I don't dislike her because she's worse than Michaela. She is, because Michaela actually got a lot done, and Carly is a much more generic damsel in distress kind of character. But I just think her acting was really bad. And she is a tool for Sam to have something to work towards. Michaela, you could argue that too, but Michaela actually does progress the plot a bit. She only exists so that Dylan can get into the story. What's her name? Director Meering, I think. Yeah. Director Charlotte Meering, aka Ma'am. She exists by definition. That's really all she does. Dylan Gould. Dylan Gould. See, the thing with Dylan, I'm going to put him here, is that as an antagonist human, he's probably the best one in the films. Which is a bar so low that it's arguably ingrained halfway through the planet. In the deepest point, except not really the Marianas. The actual deepest point, the Marianas Trench, yeah. Bruce Brazos. I'm only putting him here because I find him entertaining to watch. But he is pretty much just carried by the acting. Same with Alan Tudyk as Dutch, but the difference is I actually really like Dutch. I like him more than Ratchet, actually. Dutch is great. He's not much of a character, but I find him really fun and entertaining to just watch him do shit. He's just endearing. I want the best in the world for Dutch. Jerry Wang, because penis. Jerry's got some some funny scenes, because Ken Jeong, I think it is, put in a lot of work in certain scenes, but I have to put him low because of the bathroom straddling scene. That wasn't great, but he's there. And that's Dark of the Moon. As we see, my favorite character in that film was Laserbeak, then Dutch, and Sentinel Prime's pretty good as a villain. but you see that most of the characters are just ending up in exist to blow up and die. Will that change in Age of Extinction? Well, Age of Extinction, the first thing to get out of the way, Hound, Drift, Crosshairs. I'm going to put them above Kelly. I really like the 3 Autobots introduced in this film. Hound is pretty obvious. He is literally just John Goodman. And that's why I put him a bit below Ironhide, because Ironhide is more than his actor, I think. And he's got a bit more nuance to him. But I put them in, like, very close together. They're very similar characters. Hound is just John Goodman as a giant robot with a giant gun. Super likable, super endearing. Really cool design, actually. I like the fatter look. He is just Bulkhead, as well as just being John Goodman. But that's okay, because I like Bulkhead. Then Crosshairs and Drift, it's hard for me to choose between them, because it's basically just a giant robot, like, mafia gangster, and a giant robot samurai. I put Crosshairs a bit above, because the Ken Watanabe face on Drift is really, really awkward, because he's a giant robot with just a human face. But they're both really cool, they turn into some awesome cars. I love the vibe they got going on, and they're just fun to watch. Drift's whole, like, serenity, but he's actually kind of a mad asshole who just stabs everything. And Crosshairs is just, like, the biggest dickhead of an Autobot. But, like, he's got, like, the slightest heart of gold. And it feels like he's just there because he can't resist Optimus's charm. And that's just, they're quite likable. I love these 3. And it makes Last Night even more painful because they barely showed up in it. Speaking of knights, at least they were knights until the next film decided they're not. The Dinobots, they're all awful. They look great. I love their designs, the knight sort of motif, and the barbaric elements as well. The dinosaurs look cool. I wish their colors were better. I like Scorn's muted red in the film. It's very subtle. And Grimlock's muted green is fine. But I would have liked Slug to keep the muted purple and Strafe the muted blue of the toy. Not of the toy. The colors of the toy, but a lot more muted and less vibrant because it doesn't really work for them. But they don't even exist in the Grr Boom Bang Clang because they don't exist for the sake of action scenes. They exist for the sake of marketing. So they could put in the trailer, look, it's the Dinobots. You guys wanted that, right? That's all they exist, is to sell toys and to sell the movie. Now, I know you can argue that all the characters exist just for that. But at least the ones who exist just to sell toys, like Bone Crusher and Brawl, also exist to have cool fight scenes. Not all the fight scenes are cool, but they exist to be in a fight scene and kick ass. The Dinobots barely show up in their own fight scenes. They will do 1 or 2 attacks and then cut to something else. They're awful. They're just awful. I love the Dinobots. My favorite sub-faction in the whole franchise. They did them so dirty. Speaking of characters who exist just to sell toys and die, Stinger. I think his design works as a unique design. So I'm going to put him just below the Driller. But as a Bumblebee design, it's awful. Like, when Bumblebee takes that design, it looks terrible. I like the Stinger cannon, it's cool. But other than that, awful. Stinger, you look alright, you're not a character. You're not a character. Even in the context of this film series, you're not a character. Lockdown. He goes somewhere and exists by definition. I'm going to put him below Soundwave, but above the Wreckers. He does have an important role to play. But as a villain, he really doesn't do a lot when you think about it. He shoots Optimus and captures him. That's important. That's great. But then after that, he does nothing until the very end when he comes back down to fight Optimus a second time and just horribly die. And not even because, like, he dies because of Bumblebee. And he looks like a total loser when he's just struggling so hard just to kill Cade Yeager while basically no one else is doing anything to him. Bumblebee's there, but he's already put Bumblebee down. Lockdown just comes across like a total loser at the end. The gun face is cool. The hook is cool. They forgot his chainsaw, but that's whatever. Lamborghini Aventador, very cool car. But, like, he's not a character. He's got no personality. Yeah, I can't put him above Sound because his design is really bad too. It's really indistinguishable. It looks like a totally generic nobody. That's all he is. He's nothing. But a intimidating threat. I will say he's probably the second best villain in these films. Unless you count, like, before the Bumblebee era. Unless you count Megatron from the first film as his own thing. Cade Yeager. I'm not putting him in the same tier as Sam. just a bit below. The thing with Cade is that he's a lot more generic, but he's less annoying at points. Age of Extinction last night have a lot of scenes that are just really aggravating with Cade, but like, I can't dislike Marky Mark that much, even though he plays the same character in every film. Cade is just kind of whatever, you know? He exists by definition. I like him about as much as Sam. Sam is definitely more standout, but he has higher highs and also lower lows, so yeah, it is what it is. Tessa exists both to give Cade Yeager something to do, and so that Michael Bay can shoot scenes of a 17-year-old girl that are kind of titillating. Well, okay, no, that's not fair. There's one scene of her ass in short shorts, but Tessa is barely a character. She's better than Alice, but I don't like her. And then Shane, it's a 20-year-old dating a 17-year-old, and I get it. You can debate whether or not it's okay if the two were both underage when they met. I do not know the details of what counts as a senior and as a sophomore in America, because yeah, it's a different education system to Australia. Not important though. I do not know what age they were when they met. They're very unclear about it, but it's supposed to imply they're underage. But that means at best you have a 17-year-old dating a 14-year-old. That just doesn't... It just makes me feel uncomfortable, you know? Like, just... The power dynamic is out of whack there. It makes me very unhappy. And Shane's just a dickhead on his own. He's barely a character. And even if you were to excuse the underage thing by the fact that they knew each other when they were both underage, the fact that he goes around carrying a fucking slip of the Constitution to justify it makes him come off as a total nonce. Like, it's... ugh. TJ Miller. It's TJ Miller. I chose his dead fucking rotting corpse because I hate him. Fuck, what's your name? Joshua Joyce? I think Stanley Tucci's character. He's bad. Hate him. He has a few somewhat entertaining lines, but beyond that, he's just very hateable. And I know that was the point, but he never gets his comeuppance, it feels. Like, he gets sent to jail, but I feel like he deserved to be punished more than off-screen. I think her name's Darcy Tyrrell, or Tyrrell. She does not do anything in the movie. She's below Jolt. She is kind of important because so Attinger and Savoy, they're also important, but I just don't like them. They're not very interesting villains at all. I'll put them above Jolt and even her because they at least Jolt exists solely to sell that car, and he does one thing. These guys do a bit more than one thing. I think, what does Darcy do? She like brings some fucking... Look, Darcy does nothing, but at least she's not actively pissing me off. That's Age of Extinction. Obviously, the Autobots were the highlight. Hound, Drift, Crosshairs, all great. And that's really it. We move on to Last Night, and you're gonna hear me get a bit more annoyed with some of these. But starting off, Hot Rod, perfectly fine. He is important. I'll put him just below Glenn. Hot Rod is fine. Like, he doesn't do much, but he does have a role in the film. His design is okay on its own. His car mode's cool. The Lamborghini Centauro or something, or Diablo, is really cool. I don't know the exact model of car. I thought it was a Diablo when I saw it in the film, but apparently it's not. Hot Rod he's an accent, like the Wreckers, but I don't like his design as much. Cogman, though, easy up here. Cogman is excellent. I'm going to put him above Jetfire just because he shows up more. Cogman is really fun and really entertaining because he's just absolutely insane, and it's cool. I like how just batshit he is while being a hero in a very different way to the others. He's very over the top. He has a few genuinely just nice scenes. I like Cogman quite a bit in Last Night. He makes Last Night watchable for the few scenes he gets to be in. I mean, unlike the rest of the Autobots, he actually gets some scenes. Squeaks. I'm putting from below Jolt, because at least Jolt's thing is something that only maybe Ratchet could have done. Squeaks does one thing relevant in the movie, and that's he shoots a turret. Anyone could have done that. I think anyone could have done that pretty easily. Dragonstorm should have done it, honestly. Just crashed into the turret. Give him something to do. We'll talk about Dragonstorm. Squeaks is barely a thing. He's a cheap attempt to get, like, fucking Minions-esque love from the community. It didn't work. His figure is actually pretty cool, the deluxe figure. I actually quite like the figure on its own. But Squeaks sucks. Well, I like the figure. I don't like the parts forming on the figure. You didn't need to make him parts form, guys. Come on. Canopy. He goes in Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. He exists just to die. Another rare Autobot incident. I'll put him below the sisters because at least they turn into something. Canopy turns into a pile of junk. He exists just to die so that Isabel with a Z can be in the movie. And she exists so that Day Trader, right at the bottom, above the ones who just have clone designs and don't show up at all, Day Trader has no role in the movie. Even less role than Dickbot and Ejector, who exist so that Bumblebee can show up, establish that Bumblebee's in the barn with an action sequence, and also to give us to show us without telling us, just show us that the Allspark, or to remind us, I guess, the Allspark can bring things to life. Day Trader's only role is to be like, oh, that talisman's an important thing. Something that doesn't matter, because nothing is made of that. Because Cogman could have told him that. Cogman could have done that on his own, because Cogman shows up of his own accord. Day Trader has no real purpose in the movie, and I do not want a Studio Series figure of him. Bulldog also does... Oh, wait, hold on. I put Day Trader in Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. He is not that, because he does not exist just to die. I guess neither is Igor, but he goes in the bottom of exist by definition, even lower than Squeaks, because Squeaks, what he does is nothing, but at least, at the very least, he does something, even if someone else could have done it. Day Trader doesn't. Bulldog goes right at the bottom with him, but the thing, actually, I'm going to put him above Day Trader, simply because I actually really like Bulldog's design. I love his look, I love his vehicle. I would love a Studio Series figure of Bulldog, but he doesn't do anything. Now for the Decepticons. Easy, entertaining tier. Just below Dutch, Nitro Zeus. I love Nitro Zeus. The name is so over-the-top stupid. I adore it. The design is great. Aside from the fact that he has Shockwave's head, which is a bit uninspired, I love Nitro Zeus's look. Like the wings folding up and these big back turbines, the big blade arm made from the cockpit, the minigun arm on the other side, the very Gundam-esque vibe with his look too. I think Nitro Zeus looks incredible. His personality is very different because, at least with the Decepticons, they're either mindless monster or batshit insane. Nitro Zeus is more of a punk-ass wannabe gangster who always thinks that what his one-liners are the coolest thing in the world, despite knowing deep down that they sucked. That's the vibe you get from Nitro Zeus. He's very endearing as like just a villain buddy for Megatron. He's loyal, and that's cool. We don't see many Decepticons who show their loyalty the way he does. He's like, yeah, Megatron, the big M, gotta love him. I like Nitro Zeus. I think I would love to see him return in other media. I would love to see like a fucking a series where Nitro Zeus, Lugnut, and Clobber from Cyberverse are just like this trio that Megatron sends out on missions. Like, Nitro Zeus is the hype man, Lugnut's the fucking big bulky guy, and Clobber's the dumb one that they both kind of just like because she's cool. Mohawk. Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. He goes above Dino because he has a scene dedicated to him dying. Actually, you know what? I guess for that matter, I gotta put Crankcase and Crowbar above Dino, because they have scenes for them. Hatchet really doesn't. He has a shot dedicated to him where he dies. Mohawk is fine. He's kind of annoying, but he gets lines, which most Decepticons don't. Onslaught is straight up Gurgar Boom Bang Clang. What really disappoints me with Onslaught is that he's just Longhaul's design, and like, he looks cool. Onslaught's design is great because Longhaul's design's great. But he just exists to die. He does have lines, which a lot of these guys don't, but his lines aren't great, and he's just there to horribly die to Drift, and that sucks. Same reason, Dreadbot, right near the bottom, not Adbot, despite what Tiermaker thinks his name is. He's just there so that he can show up and get killed by Grimlock. Like, his design is not anything. It's just fucking, I think it's just Crowbar, but slightly different, and they put Christmas lights on him for some reason. Dreadbot sucks. The whole Decepticon intro thing, really disappointing when you got like Dreadbot doing nothing in the movie. Barely a factor, barely exists, fuck him. Berserker though, I'm putting him straight up at the top of bad, because he doesn't do enough to warrant being lower in bad. He doesn't exist to die, he doesn't exist in the movie. He gets one scene where he says he'll suck your brains, and that's it. And what gets to me is that they really advertise Berserker. Berserker got a ton of toys. Why? Onslaught hasn't got a toy. Mohawk, while at time of recording this, there are rumors of a Studio Series Core Class Mohawk, not announced anything at all. Dreadbot didn't get a toy, and like he's about as warranting as Berserker, given they both just copy a design. The only Decepticons to get a toy from that film, Megatron, Barricade, and the only newcomer is Nitro Zeus, who got a toy. Dreadbot didn't get shit. Onslaught didn't get shit. Berserker though, he breaks the mold. He got a ton of toys, more toys than any of them. Doesn't do anything. The only thing that Berserker gave me is a figure that I can pretend is a Studio Series crankcase, because the actual crankcase, for some reason, is a recolor of Crowbar. Now, so Anthony Hopkins, I don't care about the character's name. I actually like him, not as much as Nitro Zeus. I like, yeah, a bit more than Ratchet, because he gets to do more, which is funny, because he only appears in one film. I like him. I think that I think that I would put him in almost good, because there's an interesting idea of him having spent 70 years building up to one moment in his life, and then not being able to go through with it. But they don't do much with it. His death was fairly well done, and he's fun to watch. But that's mostly just because of the charisma of Anthony Hopkins more than anything. But yeah, he's barely a character. Vivian. She exists by definition. She's better than Darcy. With Vivian, her only role is to grab a stick. She doesn't need to be in the film, right? You could take her out of the film, give Cade either no one to partner with other than Cogman, or or use Isabella. Let Isabella be there as a stand-in for his daughter, because we'll talk about her in a moment. Vivian, her only role was so that when she grabs Merlin's staff, it grows, like it turns into the staff. That could have easily been Isabella's role. Of course, then Hot Rod would have nothing to do. But then they could have just had Hot Rod and Cogman together bring Cade and Isabella. That would have been neat. And Isabella could be the last descendant. Vivian doesn't offer anything in the movie except being English and pretty and showing off her tits occasionally through her shirt with cleavage, because it's a Michael Bay film. That's all she offers. There's nothing else. She's barely a character, but at least she has a role in the film. Isabella, right at the right near the bottom of Exist by definition. I feel like the only reason she was in the film was so that Michael Bay could shoot girl power promos, even though the film itself had nothing to do with empowering women. It was just those promos that were really cringeworthy, and very clearly what happens when like a 30-something-year-old white man tries to make a promo promoting girl power just for the sake of it, instead of because he actually believes it. That's the energy those promos give off. Isabella in the film, all she really offers is bringing Squeaks to shoot that turret. Again, anyone else could have done that. Shoot the turret, that is, not bring Squeaks. And to make everyone's position aware to Megatron. But they already planned to do that, so all she did was get them to do it a bit earlier, which doesn't really matter. She definitely could have done more in the film. I think she and Vivian did not need to be separate. Maybe she exists so that Michael Bay can prove that he's not a nonce, because he will shoot, and he can shoot an underage character without ever showing them in a sexualized way, after he did showed off Tessa's ass. Quintessa. Quintessa is the worst fucking villain in any of these films. She does nothing. She does nothing. Optimus crashes, she makes him evil, and he does nothing. Because his role of like killing the Knights, I think I said this earlier, could have just been done by Megatron. She then sits down, waits for others to do stuff for her, and then powers the big world-ending thing, and then just dies. But she doesn't die, she just gets battered around. She's the only villain who doesn't die at the end of her film, and she's the worst fucking one. She does nothing. She's in the same tier of villain to me as Kronika from Mortal Kombat 11. That's how much I hate Quintessa. She is such a shit villain. Her face is awful because it just looks like a human face on a really awkward designed body. Looks bad, looks just like dog shit. Nothing like the rest of the Primes, nothing like a Transformer beyond the fact that she's made of metal. Nothing like the Quintessons she's named after. Nothing like Quintus Prime, who she's probably also inspired by. Nothing like anything. She looks like nothing. She is nothing. She is such a shit villain. I hate Quintessa so much. She is such a bad villain. At least the Fallen gets off his ass and does some shit. He takes the Matrix. He doesn't go, Megatron, grab the Matrix for me, the way Quintessa would. He goes out there, he beats the crap out of Optimus while Optimus is down admittedly. He just kind of stomps him on him. Great, grabs the Matrix, nearly succeeds. Quintessa nearly succeeds, but that's only because everyone else is an idiot and nobody was working to stop her. The Fallen nearly succeeded while the whole Autobot army was fighting him. In Last Night, there was three or four Autobots really, 5, because Drift and Crosshairs vanished from the movie until like the final shot in the big battle. It's just Hound, Squeaks, I guess, Bumblebee, Optimus, Hot Rod, and Dragonstorm, Dragonstorm. Let's just get Infernicus out of the way. He exists to die. I'll put him... I like his design more than the RC sisters. Infernicus, interesting concept. A 6 small guys who combine into a decently beefy fucker. Does nothing. Does nothing in the film. You think Megatron would have gone, I could use that guy backing me up down there. Nope. Doesn't. Infernicus has no role except to be there and die. He enforces Optimus for Quintessa, but it doesn't seem like he needs to do that because she fucking deals with him on her own with lightning powers because Optimus sucks at everything in Last Night. Totally pointless. Dragonstorm. Let's put him in dispenser tier for a second. Dragonstorm. Let's mark down the list. Now, I don't have the other knights here, like Stormrain, Draconicus, Skeletron, and Steelbane and all that, because I can't fucking distinguish them from one another, except that Stormrain is red, I think. Now, let's mark down the list. Design. Looks like shit. The design concept is cool, but he has no definition, no panels, nothing. He's just a bunch of wires in the shape of a dragon. Story role. He appears at the start of the film and does nothing of value, then at the very end he appears again, takes down some ships, and then vanishes from the entire final battle until the very end where he shows up like, yup, our job's done, we fixed this shit. Does nothing. Toys? Does he sell any toys? Not really. I've got the Dragonstorm toy because it was on special for $10, and I like the look of Stormrain in robot mode. Not because I actually cared about the figure. Figure is kind of shit. It's fun in a lot of ways, but also kind of shit. And the rubber breaks so easy. The rubberized like PVC they use for the neck joint and the head breaks so easily. I literally cannot transform him anymore without his heads falling off because they barely stay on. Character? What character? He has no character. Concept? Concept is neat, but how many combiners is he? They say 13 knights to combine him, but then like 3 of them died. Like the Talisman Knight, Skeletron, and I think Draconicus, whatever, died, and then they still combine into Dragonstorm somehow, completely fine. What is the point? What Dragonstorm offers nothing. He looks like nothing. He is nothing. Bad. Very bad. I'm better than Q because even his name sucks. Dragonstorm, absolute waste of time, completely meaningless to everything ever. Total waste of space. But now we move on to the new era. New era, new films. How good are these? Do they hold up? Well, first off, Bumblebee finally giving Simmons some company. I think Bumblebee 2.0 is a good character. He doesn't do a lot in Rise of the Beast, which is fine. Spoilers for Rise of the Beast going on from here. Bumblebee dies, basically, for most of the film, but his comeback is really cool. The thing with Bumblebee I like is that the film devoted to him just makes him really charming and likable. He is a likable character. You like seeing his relationship grow with Charlie, how he helps her get over her traumas and her problems, and like her inability to make something of her life because she's stuck grieving her father, and the way he just gives her someone to rely on and gives her that shoulder to be with and make her find her smile again by being her friend. Like, that's really charming. I really like Bumblebee's role in his own film. It's really good. The only problem with Bumblebee, to me, first off, yeah, in Rise of the Beast doesn't do much, but I think it was ballsy to do that. And the Iron Giant ripoff scene, because the film's already kind of very evocative of Iron Giant, but the scene where he goes berserk randomly, like the Iron Giant, kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of things. But I like Bumblebee, and I like his role in Optimus Prime's character arc in the next film too. For Bumblebee, I only included the main 4 Transformers. I didn't include all the ones on the Cybertron scene, because I didn't feel like I needed to. They wouldn't go in Grab, Boom, Bang, Clang. There would be like a different tier that's basically the same thing, but they don't die. That's where they would all be. Shatter. Shatter I'm actually going to put in actually good. Just as a villain, Shatter is really effective, because she's actually deceptive as a Decepticon. She gets stuff done. Like, she's an ongoing threat. She is very clever. She doesn't have much development as a character. Actually, I'm going to put her in almost good, above Sentinel, because she doesn't have much character or motivation, like the rest of the Decepticons tend to, but at the very least, she's got a personality. Like, it's a really enjoyable personality to watch. Yeah, I put her above Sentinel, but I can't really put her in entertaining. She is entertaining, but, like, I think that's where instead I'm going to have to put Dropkick. Dropkick is quite entertaining to watch. Probably above Sideswipe, but below Kelly. Dropkick is a cool villain. He's very entertaining. He's very hateable. And I love Dropkick in that movie. Excellent job with him. I think these are the best Decepticons up to this point. The only reason I put Laser... I mean, I'm actually going to go ahead and just put almost good above entertaining, because I feel like it's more genuine to do it that way. The only reason I put Frenzy... No, I gotta put Dropkick up. I gotta put him above Laser... No, below Laserbeak. Laserbeak's definitely more sinister, and below Dutch. But Dropkick's really cool. I think Dropkick was done really well. And he's kind of an idiot, which is funny. Blitzwing. Blitzwing, not quite in Gurgar Bang Clang. He has a very important role of fucking a Bumblebee's memory. And that role is actually important enough. I'm going to put him... I'm going to put him at the top of his... No. He doesn't get a lot of screen time. I'm going to put him just below Barricade. He has a major role to play in the film, but he's not much of a character. At least, Blitzwing feels like a menace. Like, he feels like a real threat. He is intimidating. They did him well. I think Blitzwing's cool, and his design's great, even though it is Starscream. Now we get to the characters. Charlie Watson. Easily the best character we've seen so far. I really like her development. I love her story. I actually think it resonates well, the idea of not being able, like, to move past your own grief, and that stopping your life, that separation from the rest of your family who have been able to move on. That I really relate to, especially. Like, that feeling of not being with your family because it feels like they were able to move on from something you couldn't. And her story is really compelling, and I love Charlie so much, and her relationship with Bumblebee so much in that film. I think it's really well done. Alright, who's next? Memo. He's fine. His relationship with Charlie's funny, but he is not the most compelling character. That's really how I put it. I think this is Sally? Yeah, Sally and Otis, and then Rob. I like her more than Judy, but she is kind of just an exist by definition. Probably the same tier as the other father, or the other family figure. Otis can go there as well. Rob, they're all kind of just the same to me. They're there to facilitate Charlie's arc, but they're not much as characters on their own. Uncle Hank. He is very important in selling the car. I'm gonna put him, like, up here just because I find him very charming and likable. That's the sole reason. And then Major Burns, I believe his name. Jack Burns. I don't know if he's a major. I'm going to put Burns in almost good. I think the idea, right, that he got burnt by, like, the loss of his men as a result of alien attacks, and then afterwards he came to hate them, but he learns to, not all of them are bad, and he gives that, like, salute to Bumblebee. It's cool. I quite like it, but I definitely think it could have been developed better. That's where what it comes down to. It's not done bad, it could have been developed better. So he's definitely workable. I definitely think they did some good with him, just, it could have been better, yeah. Now we get to the new film, Rise of the Beast. Spoilers massively ahoy here. Let's start with Optimus. I think Rise of the Beast Optimus is probably not as good as it's hard to say. He's definitely one of the best characters, though. They did exactly what I wanted with the violent take on the movie Optimus previously. He's jaded. He's had enough. He's fed up. The war has broken him. He's lost too many friends. But he's able to move past that and grow into a better leader now that he understands that darkness better. And where's Noah? I'm just going to skip ahead. Grab Noah. Noah Diaz, same tier. I think that the way their arcs complement each other, exceptional. So good. Optimus feels like a character, and it feels bad to say that, because I've always thought Optimus is a way more interesting character than he ever gets credit for, but in the films, they really didn't give him the credit either. They didn't do anything with him. They finally did that in Rise of the Beast, and I think it was done so well. People like to say, he violently killed Scourge, how is he any different to the other ones, the other Optimus Primes? The thing is, with the exception of, like, Sentinel, I mean, like, okay, Optimus killing the other villains is definitely justified by what they've done, but it's so much more personal with Scourge. Scourge killed his best friend, was going to destroy the whole planet, fucked him up, caused Air Razor's death as well, who wasn't a friend to Optimus, but was clearly on his side, and Prime has lost so much at this point, and he blames himself for everything that happened. So it's justified. I love Prime in this film. I think he's done really well. Charlie being a top is hard to say whether I would say so still. I would have to rewatch Rise of the Beast, but I do like Charlie more. But I'll have to rewatch Rise of the Beast to say for certain where I put him. Mirage. Yeah. Above Bumblebee, actually. Look. Mirage, I'm trying to remember, does he really develop as a character? Or do I just put him at the top of entertaining? From what I remember, Mirage mainly is there to facilitate the character arc of Noah, as opposed to having his own arc. Oh. Bird just crashed straight into my fucking window. I think Mirage's character arc is more so about learning to follow the rules a bit more and listen to Optimus. And I do like that. I do like Mirage a lot. He matures. Like, that's his main arc. Yeah, and like, yeah, he has his main arc is like he matures enough to be able to sacrifice himself for the greater good. I really love Mirage. Mirage is amazing. Mirage 2.0 in that film. RC goes into entertaining, probably below... Probably above Cogman, because I love her design so much more. I love RC's design in this film. I think it's just really cute. Is it the best RC design? No, Prime. Definitely better, in my opinion. But I still like this RC look a lot. The thing with RC to me is just that she's really likable, and that's it. She's entertaining to watch. Not as much as Hound and Ironhide. About as much as Cogman, but I like her design more. I can't put her in almost good because she's not got much of a character arc, but she is still a really charming character. And you know what? Wheeljack 2.0, aka Pablo, you go in the exact same tier. People need to stop being so mean to my boy. Pablo is adorable and just the cutest little guy ever. I love him so much. And then Biffweed. Biffweed. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of entertaining. Oh my, that sounds so wrong out of context. Stratosphere goes in the bottom of entertaining just because he is important. He does have a role. and I do find him really charming with his accent. I mean, he is just an accent as well, but like he is really charming to me. Just not as much as like Sideswipe and Kelly and Drift and Crosshairs and Frenzy and Jazz and Ratchet and all that. But I like Stratosphere quite a bit. I think it was cool to see him, and his massive size is really fun. He is kind of like Jetfire's brother, and that I would love if they like actually interact. I was like, oh, aye, my brother Jetfire. I wonder where he's gotten off to. He went to the Decepticons a long time ago. Wonder if he'd ever come out of that. Something like that. Airazor. Now, Airazor's an odd one. I don't necessarily think she's entertaining or almost good. She's probably just, like, around the top of exists by definition. She plays an important role, and her death is very emotional, but more so for what it means to Primal, as opposed to, like, what it means to her, you know? She never transforms as well. Airazor is cool, but she's mostly a plot device and doesn't really have much character. Optimus Primal, though, he either goes the top of almost good or the bottom of actually good. I'm going to put the bottom of actually good, because he does definitely have, like, a character to him. And I do find his, like, the nature of how he mirrors Optimus Prime to be really, really cool. And, like, he is what Optimus Prime normally is, but, like, different in this case. Like, Primal gets to understand Optimus's outlook when he realizes how many of his kind are dead, and he starts to fall into that darkness a little as well with his aggression. But Optimus also sees Primal's side of view, and they help complement each other really well. I think Primal was done exceptionally well. The other Maximals, okay, Cheetor doesn't really have a role in the story, to be honest. He saves Noah, I guess. Cheetor I'm going to put at the top of Gurgar, Boom Bang Clang. He kind of just is there for cool action scenes. And Rhinox is going a bit lower, because he doesn't even get a scene to himself. I'm putting him above Mohawk, because he doesn't have a scene to himself, but at least it's not a scene of him dying that he gets to himself. He has a cool transformation and a cool roar. But Rhinox and Cheetor really were given the shaft here. They got to get more in the next film, I'd hope. Cheetor at least gets lines. Like, Rhinox, I can't even tell if that line from that one scene was meant to be him or Primal, the one that's, like, quoted on TF Wiki, because I haven't seen the film with subtitles yet. That'll help clear it up. At least, like, caption subtitles that says that the character who says a thing. They're not much for characters, though. They're really not up to much. Ape Link has more of a story role than them, but I gotta put him... I'm gonna put him right behind Blackout, because his role is very major, getting the transport key and holding Scourge back, and it does a lot to push Scourge as a villain. As his own character, though, Ape Link really isn't doing a whole lot. And it's not really his fault, given what his role in the film has to be, but yeah, Ape Link's fine. He's okay. Villains now. Scourge. Look, with Shatter... Oh god, hold on, my throat is haywire right now. With Shatter, as I said, she really doesn't have much of an arc or motivation. Scourge doesn't have an arc, but he does have motivation. He does have a motivation that is to serve Unicron, which admittedly is not really much more than Shatter. I think there was a bit more to it, like he wants to be on like the winning side, more or less. Like it was more interesting, I guess. Look, it's not really that. Look, okay, Scourge is more threatening than Shatter. That's why he's up at the top. As a villain, he's definitely the best villain we've had, because he's the most threatening, the most imposing. Probably not the best voice acting. Nearly said that, but there are some that I think were done better. Scourge is a good villain because he's actually a threat, right? He kicks the crap out of Prime in their first battle, and you just don't see that in these films. Scourge is really well done. Nightbird is fine. I'm trying to remember what Nightbird does. She was voiced by, like, Was it Michelle Rodriguez? What? I'm trying to remember. I've only seen the film once. I think the thing with Nightbird, like, at least, like, she has a motivation. She wants a good fight. So she exists by definition. I'll probably put her just above Michaela. Nightbird's fine. She's a cool enemy, but not much more than that. Battletrap is very handsome, and a lot of people want to fuck him. Because of the one shot from the trailer where he's got, like, the Moto riz going on. Battletrap is probably the most, like, bland of the Terracons. He's kind of just a big, doofy meathead. I'm gonna put him like the same tier as Nightbird, though. Probably a bit above, because he's definitely a bit more imposing to me. Just because of his size. He's got the same, like, I want a good fight thing going on. They're both fine, but Scourge is, like, the real moneymaker. Like, Frieza. And I guess Novocaine as well. Frieza and Novocaine. Not bad. They're not really clone designs the way the others are, but I'm going to put them in, like, the same grouping. Above them. Above Reedman, because I hate... And Scalpel. They have a story role. I guess I'll put them around Stinger, then. Frieza and Novocaine, their role, primarily, is just to die en masse. And Scorponok can go there, too. I think Scorponok is a bit of a downgrade from the previous one. I mean, not really. I like... do I? Look, Scorponok is also just sort of there to die. He gives us a Predacon in the film. That's really it. Elena Wallace, I want to put it almost good. If I got to rewatch the film, as I said a few times now, to get a better grasp on how I feel about her as a character, but I do like her a lot. I think I remember her having a decent arc and, like, important roles, but I'm just going to put her in almost good for now. Chris Diaz exists by definition near the top. I think how he helps in Noah's character arc is really good. I think that's done really well. And then the final character, Unicron. Unicron. I'm going to make one final tier, which I cannot rename right now. I will rename it before I put up the tier. It's going to just be the Unicron tier. Or the TBD tier. Because he's here, but I cannot say for certain how I feel about him as a character until the next film, and the next few films, when he gets to do a bit more. Right now, he's very imposing. His eating of the jungle planet is a really cool scene. And I think his voice acting is good too. So that is my tier list for the live-action Transformers films. Surprisingly, not just all hating the Bayformers. There are a lot of Bayformers in the top group. Let's go through again the bad characters, the nonce, the annoying, sexy, sexual robot, the racist characters, Contessa, the worst villain ever, TJ Miller and a bunch of just annoying humans and the really uncomfortable Pretender, ugly Wheeljack, waste of time giant animal guys, the fallen Starsky Megatron, and the annoying humans, and then Berserker, Dispenser and the Dispenser tier, and then in order of their, like, importance and value, in Grugar Boom Bang Clang, the most important, from Cheetor to Mohawk to Crowbar, are characters who either have a scene devoted to them, but it's really just they kick ass the whole time. I guess by that virtue I should move Cheetor down, but it's fine. He has a few scenes like where we get to really see him stand out and kick ass. Same with Rhinox. But they mostly just show up for either to kill things or to get killed by things. Below that, from Dino to like Dino, Longhaul, like, okay, from Dino to Driller, they have scenes for them, but they're really not up to much. They're mostly in the background. Then they just exist to be there in the background. And then from Stinger, Frieza, Novocaine, Scorponok, Infernicus just exist to show up and die. The RC Sisters Canopy exist for the same reason, but I like their designs less. Scalpel and Reedman exist for basically no reason but to do stuff that has no value, and I hate the designs. And then you have the appliance bots who barely show up, and then the characters who just reuse designs, or characters who barely show up at all, like less than a few seconds. Above them, the Exist by Definition tier, which is maybe a bit harsh a name looking back, but yeah, first you got the characters who are perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable from Uncle Hank down to about Lockdown. You have the characters who are perfectly okay, serve their role in the film well, nothing wrong with them, nothing terribly wrong with them, perfectly okay. From Roadbuster down to about Dylan Gould, or I guess to Devastator and Brains, you have characters who serve an important role in the film, but they just exist to serve that role. There is nothing more. It's not even a huge role for the most part. It could easily be done by someone else, but that's the ones they chose. Perfectly okay as well, but not as good as the ones above them in the same tier. And then after that, you have the characters who are also there in the film. You have the Unicron tier, for what we'll get to. And the positive tiers, you got the characters that are entertaining. I think they're quite likable and fun to watch. Ironhide, Hound, RC, Wheeljack 2.0, oh, RC 2.0 I should say, Wheeljack 2.0, Cogman, Jetfire, Laserbeak, Dutch, Dropkick, Nitro Zeus, Edmund Burton, Ratchet, Jazz, Frenzy, Crosshairs, Drift, Kelly, Sideswipe, and Stratosphere. Then you have the characters who are almost good. Definitely needed a bit more work done to cook them, but absolutely perfectly fine as they are. Don't need that extra work, but it would have been nice to see. Shatter, Sentinel Prime, Major Burns, and Elena. And the top tier from worst to best, in my opinion, without rewatching Rise of the Beast a second time, because it could easily change things. The characters I think are genuinely good. Scourge, best villain we've had in the films. Optimus Primal, very well done. I think he's done great. Seymour Simmons, actual character arc across the first 3 films, very entertaining. John Turturro does an amazing job. Bumblebee, great character, love him. Mirage, Noah Diaz, and Optimus all serve together in like a shared arc between them, all really well done. And at the top, Charlie Watson, the character that I relate to the most across all these films, and I think was done extremely well. And I can relate to a lot of the things she goes through, and just needing a friend in those times to help you get through it and to help you move on. That's my tier list. I thought this would be a lot more negative towards Bayformers, but looking back, there are certainly a lot that I don't like, but there's plenty that I actually do really enjoy. As for the films, there are things I like in all of them. I would probably, if you asked me to rank them, I would probably go Rise of the Beast at the top, then Bumblebee, then the first movie, then probably Age of Extinction, Dark of the Moon, Revenge of the Fallen, Last Night. So that's how I'd rank them. That's how I rank the characters. Hope you guys enjoyed my rambles, and I will see you another time.